There have been many powerful characters in Star Wars, like Darth Vader, who if he were to reach his full potential would have been the strongest Force wielder of all time. But what happens when you're trained by that so-called chosen one? Which brings me to Starkiller, Vader's second and arguably stronger apprentice. And thanks to the Force Unleashed games, we get to see him in his prime and how he was so much more stronger than almost anyone around him, almost as strong as Darth Vader. But, like many great things in Star Wars, this is Legends for now, and probably won't be coming to canon anytime soon. But why was he so powerful in the Force and in raw power? Let's start at the beginning. Galen Marek was a son of Kento Marek, a Jedi survivor of Order 66, and after the Purge, hid on the Wookiee world of Kashyyyk until he was found by Lord Vader. It was said that this attack led by Vader was the first time the public actually saw Vader and feared him. After locating Kento, he would make quick work of him, but as he was about to leave, his lightsaber would be pulled from his belt and flew to the kid revealed to be Galen. After sensing his power, Vader would save him from his own stormtroopers, cutting down all of them, and Vader would take him and train him under the nose of the Emperor for many years. This is where we get to see how and why Galen was so powerful in the dark side. For starters, he was naturally gifted in the Force, and two, was trained by Vader himself. And Vader's idea of training was torture and suffering. Vader focused mainly on lightsaber combat and not the Force itself. He would quote-unquote teach his students by removing parts of the body in lightsaber combat or in other means to teach them about suffering. But it should be noted that this was mainly due to Palpatine telling him to do this, and this would mostly happen to the Inquisitors. But even so, he held no feelings for any of them and barely made them strong enough to survive on their own, but barely strong enough to kill the Jedi, which I've actually talked about in a previous video. But unlike the Inquisitors, Vader actually cared very much about Starkiller and was way more involved in his training. And to test Galen to his absolute limit, Vader would construct a droid known as Proxy, who could take the shape or appearance of anyone or anything, and was programmed to be as skilled as a Jedi in combat, so skilled that he could even rival Obi-Wan Kenobi. And on top of this, the droid was fitted with armor that could resist blaster fire, boosted its legs to move more quickly, and even had gravity repulsors to mimic the ways of the Force in some aspects. And Vader used Proxy on Starkiller non-stop until he was a true warrior of destruction. But there was always one challenge that he could never seem to complete. That is, when Proxy could take the shape of his lover. And as shocking as it is, Galen actually enjoyed this training and wanted to become very powerful. He would even go as far as to do this to himself without Vader interfering, hoping to become very powerful very fast. Some of the ways Starkiller would test himself was by making Proxy chain him up in a room all by himself, depriving him of sleep and nutrition until he could construct his lightsaber through the Force. And this would take multiple attempts. He would also be forced in seclusion for multiple days. He would also stare at the glowing red blade of his lightsaber and reflect on his pain. He did this to fully commit to the dark side, and because he believed that there's still some parts of him that were not committed, and wanted to change that. But there have been many other Sith who were just as naturally gifted, if not more, and had the exact same training as him, if not more, and yet only had a sliver of his power. This is mostly because Jedi and Sith were taught some form of restraint. For the Jedi, they were taught not to use their anger or hatred. For the Sith, they were told to restrain some knowledge from their Padawans. But not Starkiller. He was taught to use all of his power all of the time. And the dark side loved this. It flowed through him, making him even stronger. Some examples of him using all of his power is when Starkiller crashed or crushes TIE fighters into each other, and even pulling down an entire Star Destroyer. But it should be noted that this was incredibly difficult for him to do. But unlike other Force users, he didn't instantly collapse and fainted. He continued on with his day right after that. Another reason he was so powerful was because of his Force lightning. It was said that it was so powerful it rivaled Palpatine himself. He could even make it flow through his lightsaber as well. He could also absorb energy such as blaster fire and explosions. To show you how powerful he was, he once fought both Palpatine and Darth Vader at the same time and beat them, well Vader at least, and destroyed a large part of the Star Destroyer after the duel. His bloodline also had to do with his power due to both of his parents being Jedi. Starkiller was undoubtedly incredibly strong, so much so that he could take on an entire army and also fight Vader in the same day. And that is how Galen Marek, aka Starkiller, was so powerful. If you want me to do a full life story on Starkiller, let me know. I think it's very interesting. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.